I'll talk real early from its beginnings. I'll talk about its unique characteristics I think you'll find very fascinating, some of the characteristics. Then I have a very short video I want to show you. I'm going to save that for the end probably. Then I'll talk about the SR's retirement and what it's doing right now. And talk about the free books that are here. And Q&A, any questions you have, we can talk about anything. The entire program was declassified in 1990. So from then on, it's been entirely an open book. The guy you see right here is Kelly Johnson. He was the president of the Lockheed Skunk Works. And he developed the U-2 aircraft, which you see hanging from the ceiling, in 1955. He knew that someday that the U-2s were going to become vulnerable to the enemy defenses and eventually probably get shot down. And as we all know, Gary Powers got shot down on May 1st of 1960. Well, about 2 years before that, in 1958, Kelly started thinking about conceptualizing an airplane that would go higher and faster than the U-2, and that was going to be the SR-71. The amazing thing about it is, from the time he was given the pot of money and all the authority to build this airplane, which happened the exact month preceding Gary Powers' shootdown on May 1st, so in June of 1960, Kelly Johnson was told to build this higher, faster airplane with total secrecy, unlimited pot of money, and have it flying as fast as he could. Guess how long he had it flying? 22 months later, the airplane was flying. 22 months. All slide rule technology. No computers back in those days, just very crude computers. But today they can simulate an airplane to a finite degree, so when they hop in it, most of its characteristics and performance are already well known to the test pilots and so forth. They find a few glitches and have to modify a few things. But this airplane, no one had ever been to Mach 3 before. Yes, Gary, the sound barrier had already been broken, Mach 1. No one had ever been to Mach 3 before. So when they built this airplane, this is the first time people were getting up to the high altitudes and high speed. As most of you know, the mission of the SR-71 was to gather intelligence. And we gathered intelligence all around the Northern Hemisphere. We did it for 6 presidents, we did it for the Central Intelligence Agency, we did it for the National Security Agency, the Defense Intelligence Agency, Pentagon, and a few foreign countries, Great Britain being one of them. As a friendly nation, was privy to a lot of our information we were getting, particularly over the European things. We flew all of our operational sorties from 2 locations only. We flew them out of either Okinawa, Japan, and Kadena Air Base, or we flew them out of RAF Mildenhall over here in England, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. Those are the only 2 places we flew operational sorties. Now, home for the SR-71 was a place called Beale Air Force Base. Beale is located about 25 miles north of Sacramento, California, up in the northern parts of California. There we did all our training. We flew a few operational sorties. We flew the overflights in Cuba out of Beale. We flew through Nicaragua and El Salvador in the late 70s when they were getting testing. And we also flew 1 or 2 round-robin missions out of Beale all the way into the Barents Sea and then back. And a couple of occasions had to land with emergency at Mildenhall. But this is before we were really stationed permanently over here. So basically, just think of Beale as training base. That's where we learned to train. That's where we worked for 9 months in the SR-71 training and simulators to get proficient enough to fly the airplane. This is a shot of Beale Air Force Base, our home, where we trained, where our kids went to school, where our families lived. Each one of these hangars right here holds an SR-71.
In front of me.
These represent all the 4 airplanes that we had at the 9th Wing. And when I came back to Beale out of the Pentagon in 1986, I came there, I was very lucky to be selected to be the Vice Wing Commander. And then in 1987, I was fortunate enough to take over as the Wing Commander at Beale Air Force Base. We had 35 tankers, KC-135Q model tankers that were devoted to the SR-71's refueling exclusively. They could refuel any other kind of airplane in the Air Force, but they were the only ones that could refuel the SR-71. In the late mid-80s, we started getting KC-10s qualified to go up, but up until then, with my generation, we flew with the KC-135. So we had 35 airplanes at Beale all the time, and wherever we went, they were always stationed at Milton Hall and over at Kadena with us. We owned all the SRs around the world, we owned all the U-2s around the world, and we had 14 T-38s. The T-38 we used as a companion trainer. You got such little flying time in the SR-71 that this is the one that kept our skills home to be able to fly the SR on a daily basis. The U-2 pilots at the same time, they also were both qualified in the T-38s to keep their flying skills home as well. The flying time you got in the U-2 and the SR is very limited. Now my best job in the Air Force was my last 3 years because higher headquarters came down with a message. They said in the message, we want all the wings senior staff to fly all of the wings airplanes. Well, they forgot about Beale Air Force Base having 4 aircraft. We didn't bother to question the mail. We took it at face value. And I went down and checked out the tanker. I was already checked out the SR. I was already flying the 38. I went and soloed out in the U-2. For my last 3 years in the Air Force, I flew all 4 of these airplanes concurrently. It was a dream job come true for any pilot to be able to fly these 4 airplanes. When you talk about the Blackbird family, that was the nickname given to the airplane, was the Blackbird. It also had another nickname called the Habu, which is a snake on the island of Okinawa. But as a Blackbird family, there were 3 varieties of it. And the first variety was the original one. This is the one that Kelly Johnson developed for the CIA. It was a single piloted airplane, civilian crews flying it along with the CIA, unmarked aircraft. And of those, you see 15 were built. They flew out of Okinawa, Japan from May of 1967 to May of 1968, 1 year only. They were activated under a code name of Black Shield, and that's what got them over to Okinawa. And that was the code name they flew their mission to, Black Shield. During that time frame, the 29 sorties, 26 of the sorties were over North Vietnam. The other 3 were directly over North Korea, gathering intelligence. President Johnson at the time got very, very nervous with the covert nature of CIA guys, civilians, unmarked airplanes. Got really nervous and he canceled the program, and they never flew after May of 1968. So that 1 year, the CIA flew the airplanes for 29 sorties. They were immediately replaced with SR-71s. Now we had Air Force crew members, Air Force markings, American flag patch, Geneva Convention card in your wallet, all the markings on the airplane you see here. So it was no covert nature. It was very overt. He was much more happy with that. And we picked up the same missions that the U-2 was doing, other than the overflights of North Korea. The second variety that was built was called the YF-12. It was a very short-lived program. It didn't last very long, but the design was to find an interceptor that could go out after the Russian bears and bisons coming across the Aleutian chain and be able to have a look-down, shoot-down missile that could take them out before they got too close to the United States. All the technology proved very feasible, the launches were successful, but the program never really went anywhere, not off the drawing board. After they flew the missions, proved the feasibility, the fire control system for this airplane went on to become the premier fire control system for the Navy's Top Gun F-14, which is a very sophisticated fire control system that originated from the YF-12. The whole program lasted maybe 4 years, maybe 5 if folks did. So only 3 airplanes were built. The last of the Blackbird variety that I flew was called the SR-71. 2-man crew, you had a pilot in the front seat, and in the back seat we had an Air Force navigator. His nickname, the duty title, was Reconnaissance Systems Officer, and then we called him RSO for short. Reconnaissance Systems Officer. So he was a pilot in front, your navigator in the back. 29 were built, 10 lost. If we look up, add up all the airplanes here were built, you're going to come up with 50 airplanes. If you look, add up all the losses, you're going to come up with 19. And it may sound like a lot of airplanes, but you have to put this all in perspective. These guys were flying at the leading edge every time they went up. To get to Mach 2, to Mach 2.5, to Mach 2.8, to get up to Mach 3 and beyond. They were doing this for the first time. No one else had ever done it before. We were losing a lot of airplanes back in the early days. There was no computer modeling in the airplanes. Everything they learned about this airplane was done by flying it. just to give you an example of how many we lost in the early days, from 1962, the very first flight of the SR-71 was 26 April 1962. From 1962 all the way to 1972, during that 10-year period, we lost 18 of the 19 airplanes. From 72 forward, we lost one more all the way to 1997. So, steep learning curve, the airplane flying on the edge of the envelope all the time, and that's when we lost a lot of airplanes. No losses whatsoever to enemy fire. No big SAMs or anything that would touch the SR-71. This was a very classified program. Again, it was a very short-lived program, but what it was, this drone on the back, they modified. This airplane was one of the CIA's versions of the A-12. They modified it to become a mothership to launch the drone. When they did that, they called it the M21. The drone on the back was called the D-21 for the drone. And the principle was this airplane would launch the drone at Mach 3, and then the drone would fly a pre-programmed course deep into China, deep into Russia, fly a pre-programmed course and come back out over the ocean, eject a palletized load of intelligence on a parachute, C-130 would come along, snag the intelligence, and take it back, and deduct your result. The drone was on a one-way self-destruct mission. It would self-destruct out over the ocean. They test flew that drone out of California and launched it out of the Pacific Ocean on 3 occasions for the first 3 test flights. Each of those were varying degrees of success. On the 4th flight, however, it was a total disaster. When the drone was launched off the back, it hit the left rudder of the SR-71 all at Mach 3. The SR broke up. The back seater got killed. The front seater survived. And Kelly Johnson terminated the program right then and there. One of his flight test engineers was killed. He said it's too high risk. The trade-off is not worth it, and he canceled it. Once he did that, they had the drones already built, so they said, maybe there's some way we can still use the drones, and they came up with this B-52 concept. And what they did, they put 2 drones, the same drone, underneath the wing, and to get it up to Mach 3 speed, they used a rocket igniter, so that would get it up, and the rocket would drop off, and then it would do its trick, go into deep into China or deep into Russia. They flew it out of Guam, and they launched, I'm thinking, if I have my data correct, I think they launched about 6 times. And out of the 6 launches, I think 2, maybe 3 were recovered. And out of the 2 or 3 recovered, I think only 1 had meaningful intelligence. So it was a very short-lived program. It proved feasible, but it got canceled after about 3 or 4 years. As I talk to you right now, you can hear my voice. Can you still hear me in the back? Can you hear my voice? It's reaching you right now at about 760 miles per hour. That's standard day conditions, roughly 760 miles an hour. That's called Mach 1. If you go twice that, it's Mach 2. If you go 3 times that, it becomes Mach 3. In the SR, every time we flew the airplanes, we always flew at Mach 3 or greater. And it comes up to about 21, 22, maybe 2,300 miles an hour. And we did that all 80,000 feet, and you could cruise for about an hour and 10 minutes, and then it's time to come down and get another load of gas, all at Mach 3. The amazing part, just to give you an analogy, if you were thinking about driving your car down the highway, that's how fast you could go, 35 miles about every minute down the highway, if you were doing SR-71. Now another analogy I'll give you, it has 3 conditions to it. The 3 conditions are highly improbable. What I call my 3 ifs, because the first if is, if you could fire a 30-06 rifle from LA, Los Angeles to New York City, and the next condition is, if you could sustain that muzzle velocity the entire distance from LA to New York City. And the third condition is, if you can squeeze that trigger simultaneously as the SR passed directly overhead, guess who gets there first? The SR took about 2.5 minutes.
That's amazing.
That's all computed basically, if you want to know, if you're the purest one, that's based on 3,000 feet per minute, 3,000 feet per second on the 30.6, 30 100 feet per second on the SR-71. So every second, the SR is gaining 100 feet. Like everything in life, it's a downside to it. And for us, the downside with this tremendous speed, just like the space shuttle re-entering the atmosphere, is the heat that's generated. It's all from skin friction, but the heat generated. The leading edge is about 500 to 700 feet. Flat surfaces, 400 to 500. And the fuel internal of the aircraft got to 350 to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. Very, very hot. That's what's amazing about it. You're at 85,000 feet, and the outside temperature is already at a minus 70 degrees constant. So if you go from minus 70 up to these temperatures, it's a pretty big change. Here's a shot out of our flight manual. It shows some representative temperatures all around the exterior of the airplane in Mach 3. And you can see most of them are in 500s. You look around the airplane, here's one at 1050. Here's one at 950 right here at the engine. 500s. Notice this number right here. Can you read that one? 622 degrees. That one's right to my window. Very front window, the SR-71. 622 degrees Fahrenheit, Mach 3. Obviously, it'd go faster if you get up to Mach 3.2 or 3.3. The temperature's going to go up. Learn how to use that to my advantage. You'll see here in a minute the pressure suit you have to wear when you fly the SR-71. It's a full pressure suit, good to the moon. But you take up to stay, to keep your body fluids up, we took up water, Gatorade, Kool-Aid, whatever your drink of choice was. We put these squeeze bottles like you see marathoners. This is plastic squeeze tube. This long tube would extend out. You pushed it through a feeding port in the pressure suit helmet, and you could get your water or your Gatorade or whatever you wanted to drink. That kept the fluid levels up. But if you run some long missions, and we've had 12 missions that go over 11 hours and 20 minutes, you need to stay nourished. And we take up what's called tube food, and it comes in giant toothpaste dispensers about that big. And it has a feeding port you screw onto it and it breaks the metal seal. My favorite foods that I always took up were the cheese and macaroni and the beef and the gravy. I love them. I took up butterscotch pudding, and the chocolate pudding. Those are my favorites. And you do the same thing. You squeeze it, down it goes. The bad thing about this is the tube food, the manufacturer of the tube food, I don't know if you have him over here, but in the United States, the manufacturer is Gerber. Does that mean anything to you? Gerber baby food? So this food has a consistency of baby food. And when you get it in the cockpit, it's fairly cold. I found if I take that tube, put it on that windscreen, and give it about 2 minutes on each side, just touching the windscreen, it would warm up to a nice normal temperature, and it went down much, much better. Particularly the cheese and macaroni, because it was nice and warm rather than cold. And it works. You just held it up there about 2 minutes. You can put your pressure suit hand up there. You'll see the suit here in a minute. And it's got feeding. You're getting cool air throughout the suit. I can put my hand up there. You could leave it there much more than about, I'd say about 25 seconds. You'd have to take it away. You'd get burned. And this is through many, many layers of the pressure suit. That's how hot that windscreen goes. Some of the unique features Kelly had to overcome to build this airplane. He had to decide what metal he was going to use. And in the 60s, the metal of choice then that he picked was titanium. It's lightweight, and it still has the structural integrity that will withstand Mach 3 speeds and all the harsh environment of 80,000 feet. Every SR-71 is 92% by weight titanium. It's a lot expensive titanium metal. When they first started building airplanes, they ran out of the crude, what they call titanium sponge. It's a real amorphous kind of a thing. It looks like sponge, but that's titanium before it gets purified and made into different panels and poured into make pigment and stuff like that. So this titanium sponge, they were running low. And the ore that they use to make the sponge is called rutile ore. It comes all around the world. It's quite plentiful. They were running out of it in the United States. Guess where they got the rutile ore to make the rest of the titanium? From Russia. The CIA worked through some second world countries and bogus companies and organizations, and they got the ore to the United States to finish off the SR-71. It has some unique characteristics when Kelly first started building the airplane. He kept the titanium bolts. The guys were torquing them down, and the bolt heads were torquing off too soon. They were snapping off. And Kelly put his engineers to work and said, okay guys, figure out why these bolt heads are snapping off. And it turns out, this is in Burbank, California, where everything's being manufactured. It turns out, in summer months in Burbank, California, they put an extra amount of chlorine into their water system, which is what we're using now, the chlorine and fluoride for teeth cleaning, at least in the United States. And then the chlorine was reacting with the titanium and loosening the bolt heads, and that's why they were snapping off. Because that's how they were, the last thing that went through was a washing cycle of the city water. And so they didn't realize it had the chlorine in it. When you eject out of this airplane, and we've had ejectors